Hey guys, it's Ash from Ash and Warrior Props, and today we're going to get started in our first lesson for intro beginner prop maker series that I'm going to do. And what we're going to cover today is how to read, understand, and cut templates. I know it seems pretty basic for us veterans out there, but it is something that I feel like needs to be covered. I do get frequent questions on how to read certain templates, how to cut out templates, best way to apply them, use them, whatever. So we're going to kind of go over everything from cutting out the templates, how to print the templates, and tracing and cutting. Or just probably tracing. We'll do cutting in a different video, but this is going to be exclusively how to cut out armor templates. The way I format my armor templates may be different from other makers, but I do typically try to follow the same kind of unspoken rule for this. So for starters, if you want to head over to my website or any of your favorite prop makers reps, download whatever template you want. I will go ahead and say for a lot of my templates, I do what's called a poster mode. So you'll see some where all of your stuff is on one page and some where you need to make a big page. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to cover helmet and armor templates in this video. So for starters, once you download your template off of my website or wherever, go ahead and import it into Adobe Acrobat. Adobe Acrobat I think is still free. Any PDF reader I think should do. And what you're going to do first off is double check my templates. I oftentimes have it set to poster mode, so when you go to the top right hand corner and click print, there's another little dialog box that'll say poster mode. Click on poster mode. I do have everything sized pretty much to me. I'm pretty average male build and height and weight. Take that with how you will. It's really hard to kind of tell you how to scale it up or scale it down. It may just take some finagling. So let's get into setting up our templates and how to read them. So for the purposes of this video, I am going to cover my Elite Knight helmet template, which you can find on my website once again, 100% for free. So what we've got for starters, I've got some printer errors right here, so just disregard that. So we have some of this template that is formatted for a single page, meaning that everything that you need is set and ready to go with one piece of paper. Doesn't need to be taped together or anything. So for these, what I like to do, I've seen some people do it with scissors. The most comfortable way for me is a utility knife. And you can see here, like a lot of these are marked with like 45. I'll get into that in an advanced cutting video. But essentially, I like to stick to the outside of the black line. If you have a few wobbles here and there, it's not gonna end the world. You can clean it up later, obviously. All right, so there we have it. I do have a couple little extra areas. We can just trim that up a little bit, but should look something like this. Now for this specific template, I do have little areas right here that are gonna be cut out later. The easiest and fastest way, especially when you have repeated stuff like this, I've found, is to do all horizontal lines and then go back and then do vertical. Again, a couple slip ups here and there are no worry, like that, and should just pop up. If you've got a little like straggler, sometimes some of the fibers on the paper will make it stick, but again, no worries, just clean it up and you're good to go. So yeah, that's essentially how you need to be cutting out one-off pieces or anything that can be covered on a single sheet. It should look something like that when you're done. It is important to note I do print all of my templates out on 110-pound cardstock, and it makes it so it's not overly flimsy. You can take it, you can pin it down, use glue, whatever. Just makes it a lot easier to maintain control of your template while you're tracing it. One other thing I'd like to point out is sometimes you'll see something like this faceplate has these extra marks here and right here that'll say 2mm or glue space or whatever. When it gets time in the build to do that, it's important to remember that you're gonna do this piece solid and then cut this stuff free and do that part second. Again, it all depends on the specific type, but just kind of, it is something you have to get a feel for, but a lot of times, so we don't waste paper and foam, I'll do something like this, so you will trace your first piece, and then your detail pieces will be cut free from the overall, and then traced onto the next layer of foam. Okay, so next up, we are gonna cover parts that need to be taped together. So when you print in poster mode, you'll get something akin to this, where if you lay it out, you can tell that all the pieces look like they need to be taped together. Now, if you're using Adobe Acrobat, there is a setting to give you some like margin and cut marks. For simplicity's sake, you can just kind of line up the edge of the print like so. And I use this extra space as just kind of tape room and just lay it on top like that. And then I take some clear tape. You can use Scotch tape, hacking tape, whatever. Just tape it together like so. And again, a lot of times you can find like aligning points, but the best thing I can tell you to do is just kind of line up where the marks are, and like where the Ashen Warrior Props watermark is. Make sure it continues and looks relatively even. If it's offset by like a millimeter or so, it's not the end of the world. And on 4-page ones, I like to do side and side and then top and bottom. No particular reason as to why. I mean, like again, once you get a feel for this, if you're new, you kind of come up with your own little methods. After a while, this is just kind of what I do. So now that we've got the sides done, a lot of times you can use a straight edge. I've been doing this enough that I can kind of keep my eye where I want it without too much of a hassle. But again, practice makes perfect. So if you're struggling to get a straight line, and this is your first batch of templates you're cutting out, you know, feel free to use like a ruler or a straight edge or whatever. Gonna tape this up. And you can just treat this now, once you've got everything taped together, you can just treat it like the single page stuff. We're gonna cut everything out and then get into tracing. One other thing I wanna touch on before we get to tracing is a lot of times on helmets you'll see these little dashes on people's templates. These are called registration marks, and what this does is make sure that when you fold or glue your foam together, everything lines up to create the shape properly. Now you can cut those out with a knife, or I have this little sewing notch cutter. Makes life a lot easier. You just go in, cut the notches like so. Super quick and easy. Highly recommend grabbing one of these. If not, again, scissors, you know, your knife, whatever, still works. This just makes it a little faster. And again, you don't have to go into prop making thinking you need all of these extra tools and whatever. Tools just help you, you know, get a little faster at it, and that's about it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. We can have a tool theory discussion at a later video. So now we're ready to start tracing. Now, a lot of people, one complaint I see them have with rolls of foam is, oh, well, they don't lay flat. So what I like to do is I will get, when I order a new thing of foam, I roll them all out like so. HD foam is dense enough that you can just kind of roll it in the opposite direction, hold it for a minute, let it go out. And a lot of times I will store it flat and leave weights on it overnight. And then it, like I've got a whole sheet under my bench that is just full of flat foam now. All right, so for our tracing portion, one thing to note with most any templates, especially anything that's symmetrical, you're only gonna get one half of the template. And the reason we do that is save paper. So for this, for instance, I like to lay that there. I'll take some sewing pins, stick one in the top, make sure it's pulled tight, and stick one in the bottom. And if you're feeling, you know, fast or speedy, you can kind of organize them and lay multiple out at a time. Now, one thing I want to note immediately is your tracing utensil. Now, I see a lot of people, the default is kind of use a Sharpie and call it a day. I don't use Sharpies anymore, and I'll show you why. So when you use a Sharpie to trace, you get a really thick line like so. That line, you see, that's thick. This is not normally going to cause any problems with your build. However, if you are not consistent with what part of the Sharpie you're cutting through, be it the middle, the outside, or the inside, it can lead to inaccuracies in your build or things not lining up correct. Then the other thing I see is people using a ballpoint pen, which I don't actually currently have one down here. And then the popular one that I used for a really long time is a mechanical pencil or a wood pencil, which I like a lot because you get a really skinny line, like so. Now, there is one downside to using this. If you rub your finger, you can see it leaves an indent in the foam. So what that's going to do is when you cut it, it's going to leave a dent where that is, and is going to lead to a seam created there. Now, this happens because the tip of the pencil is so sharp and so fine that it does require pressure to get a decent mark in there, which is going to create that indent. So to alleviate that, what I've defaulted to using now is a carpenter's pencil. You can get these just about anywhere. I really enjoy this. It marks on just about anything. And I'll show you why I like it. So the line is comparable to our mechanical pencil, but there's no indent on the foam. So this isn't going to leave a seam at all, and you can feel it when you cut it. You can see there's no seam transfer, which is really nice. If all you have is a mechanical pencil, that's totally fine. 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be able to notice. This is just my absolute favorite thing to use nowadays. And again, you can get them pretty cheap. If you only have a Sharpie, again, Sharpie's fine. This is just what I like to use. I did Sharpie for a very long time. And then I did mechanical pencil for a very long time. The only one I would say is an absolute no if you've got the options is a Sharpie. Or a ballpoint pen, because they have the same effects as the mechanical pencil. But again, there is no wrong answer. You will still get a decent result using any of them. This is just my preferred method and notes that I've taken on doing this. So when you trace, you can just glide up and down. Make sure you mark your registration marks on everything. And if you're new to this, I would recommend, like on my templates, I'll put 1, 2, 3, ABC, yada, or what side of the template it is. Not overly necessary if you're familiar with this stuff, but you know, it does help just keep track of and make marks. One thing, again, I want to make sure I get across is you're not missing half of your template. It is a flip and trace, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So now that I've got sides 1, 2, and 3, to get the opposite side, you're literally going to take it and flip it. That is it. Space optimization on your foam will save you money. I am not the best at it, but there are some people who can fit everything together really well. So get a little bit of practice in of optimizing your space on your foam sheets, and then you won't have a big scrap bin like I have. Also highly recommend a magnetic pin cushion. Ryan's gonna absolutely eat me alive for that thing. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to go into cutting, but I do want to just do a quick basis of it, and then we will go into more in another video. So, for cutting these out, I've seen some people use regular carpet knives, I've seen people use utility knives, I've seen some people use X-Acto knives. My favorite for cutting out base shapes, so anything that's not detail, are these two. Now, I use this skinny one a little bit more because you can get a little bit more movement in there. The larger one is better for doing like 10mm pieces that have got straight lines. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. This is just my preferred. And for the most part, unless marked, you're simply going to, I like to start in front of the pencil mark so I don't make an indent, and pull, making sure you apply even pressure for the entire cut, so that way you get one nice relief. And I like to, since I was using a skinny pencil, I was able to kind of stay on the line. You're still gonna have pencil marks, but a lot of the time for helmet domes, you're gonna be sanding it off. But yeah, there you have a nice, smooth cut. And that's kind of the gist of what I wanted to cover with templates.
Listen, it's 10:30 p.m. the night before this video is supposed to go up. Liam is asleep, I want to sleep, and I don't have time to wait for him to record an outro, so this is going to have to do. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment on what you'd like to see next, and the Helldivers video comes next. It's good to be back.